All right, here we go. Welcome to the Teaching a Rockstar podcast. And on today's episode, man, I'm fired up for this one. A-Train Lanier, baby. I love it. So let me tell you some background on this. So I was bumping around, I believe it was on the Facebooks, and Heather Patterson, Pink Patterson, posted something from Polly Ryan. And there's this guy wrecking the mic, and kids are jumping up and down. I'm thinking, what is happening with this? And then, like a few days later, I'm looking around on history, some Instagram, and I see Zen Klein, and then he's seen with my friends over Teague. Thinking, who is this guy? And then here's the other. But then I start looking at him because I've taught so many students over the years. I'm like looking in this kid's eyes, and I can say kid because I'm old, and I'm looking, and I can see like he has this crazy look of compassion, right, and love, and here's what I know based on my experience. Like he had, like I could tell there's a story. Like you can't have that kind of compassion without having to live through something. Like you can't fake that. So I figured, man, I got to talk to this guy and see what's going on behind all that and behind the music and the speaking and see what he has going on. Here we go. Teaching a Rockstar podcast. Austin A-Train Lanier. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
All right, man. So let me start off with this. So check this out. So you're coming over, right? And I messaged my friend Diane. She is a counselor over at Teague. And I said, hey, Diane, check it out. Guess who's coming over? And she says, who? And I sent her a link to the Instagram of you with all the kids around you at Teague. Everybody's jumping up and down.
Oh, my goodness. In the cafeteria. That was crazy.
Yeah. So it gets better. So she says, OMG, wow, our kids love that guy. I said, yeah, I'm pretty excited. She goes, yeah, he broke our table.
That was not my fault, man. There was teachers on the tables, man. Look.
But I thought
that was a great time. Amazing.
Anytime some furniture's getting broken, that's not a bad day. There's some learning going on.
You did something right.
Yeah.
Every day that goes by where there's not furniture broken, I can't sleep well.
Could have been a better day.
Could have been a better day.
All right, man. So let me ask you this, dude. So I want to go way back. And so when you're growing up and you're in school, you're doing an elementary school thing. And for you, what was school like when you think back to like elementary, second, third, fourth grade, and you think about teachers and your classrooms? Were at that point when you were a kid, were you feeling successful and you were into it?
No, man. Actually, I was the opposite. So school for me has been different. I was diagnosed with ADHD at 6 years old, so I at that early age started taking medication. And I didn't really understand that whole process of taking medication. And, I fought with my parents a lot every single day before school because I hated taking that pill, which is part of my story that I share in the schools of how I believe I first lost my identity at that early age, man. And I thought my parents didn't love me the way that I was. I thought that my teachers didn't love me the way that I was. I thought I was a mistake because there's something wrong with me. They want me to take this pill to change me. So I fought with my mom and dad every single morning before school. So by the time I got to school, first, second, third grade, I was just in a terrible attitude, me against the world mentality. So no, school was very rough for me. I mean, academically, I was excelling. I just had so much energy. My behavior was always a problem in school.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so even at that time, could you feel that pill was changing your personality?
Absolutely, man. I mean, I've taken, I can't even name all the ones from Ritalin, Vyvanse, Concerta, Adderall. Man, I just, the list goes on and on of different ones that I've taken, and each one of them would have different side effects. I remember there'd be some that I would take that turned me into a zombie, where I just would be blah all day. And then there'd be ones where I couldn't eat anything at lunch, I couldn't eat. And it's just kind of, back and forth, man. So yeah, it was a frustrating time for me.
Man, that zombie effect, that's the one that really concerns me. And here's why. Like, I get it, especially as a teacher, because you got 32 kids in your class, and one of them you, and you count for like 12. So
yeah,
really, you've got 44.
Yeah.
But here's what concerns me is when we zombify a kid, it brings that energy level and all the speed of the thought, it brings it way down to that kind of that medium range. But here's what really bothers me is in the trough. when the kid has real challenges and he's really struggling, what it also does, it brings him up. So it keeps him right there. So the kid doesn't really learn how to deal with challenges and all that, those serious, negative, darker emotions when that they should, because you're supposed to feel a little pain when you're, second and third grade. So you can deal with that and disappointment and learn how to deal with it. But a lot of those kids, because they're kept right in that middle area, don't get to experience that.
Yeah, makes sense.
That concerns me. All right, so man, you're doing your thing, but you're okay academically.
Yeah.
But you're getting notes written home and phone calls.
I was ahead academically. I mean, I always in the math, the multiplication, times tables, all that. I mean, I was always like the first in class, But my parents say maybe I was getting bored, because I was academically excelling. I was in talented and gifted classes growing up, always in the AP and the accelerated classes. But my behavior was just always off.
Yeah, but probably I don't get the feeling you're a bad kid. You're just a lot of kid.
Yeah, you could say that.
Just a lot of boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. But like you weren't like mean and beating people up and taking lunch money. You were just
No. It was never that, man. It was always just lack of identity based. So like a lot of performance, a lot of me wanting to convince other people to love me. So that was lashing out. That was disrupting class, making other people laugh. Class clown was one of the biggest ones. And then also, growing up the way that I grew up, I dealt with a little bit of racism. My best friends have been black my whole life. So growing up being a white boy, white people think I'm trying to be black. Black people think I'm trying to be black, so I had to deal with some racism stuff as well. But nah, man, it was never just me going out my way to try to find somebody to be mean. It was always just trying to earn people's love.
Yeah. And then was that here in Texas?
No, born and raised in Newport News, Virginia, all the way on the East Coast, man.
I did. All right. So you're in Virginia, and all this is going on. And when you hit like junior high in your teenage years, and now you're going through puberty and things are now is this point where things get really crazy, or is it getting better?
Yeah. Well, kind of, and both of them actually. It got a little bit better in the sense of physically. I started playing sports and got really heavy into athletics, which is like I share this part of my story as well when I go into schools about how I started achieving things that I wanted. So I was always driven to just be popular. I wanted everybody to love me and wanted to be well known and feel accepted. So I started playing soccer when I was in middle school, and then I was trash when I first started playing, but then I just really dedicated myself to be getting better. And by the time I was a freshman, I was traveling to England and, playing overseas and stuff. But during those middle school years, even though I was, athletically stepping up and stepping into a nice role there, my identity was still missing. I still didn't know who I was. So I was getting into a level up of trouble from elementary school. Now I'm starting to mess around with girls during school, and I'm sneaking around and I'm doing, more inappropriate things, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
As I get older. So, and it was still all just a seeking validation for me. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then at this point, so at some point in high school, but hey, I'm curious though, like you got the athletic thing happening, but at this point, girls are coming in the picture and other stuff. And at this point, are your grades dropping? Or are you still
Not
able
yet.
to?
Not yet. No. So my grades, I'm still doing good. I've been, because of, I guess my ability to just kind of pick things up rather quickly, I'd say, I didn't really have to study too much throughout middle school, and even my freshman year, I'm taking AP classes. I'm kind of just doing enough just to get by. If I'm getting B's, couple A's, then I'm good. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's where I was at. I was chilling. I wasn't getting C's and D's never throughout school, middle school. It was pretty easy for me. But that changed later on in high school. I just started caring less and less. But yeah, by middle school, no, I was doing well academically.
Yeah. And then your relationship with your teachers at this point, men in middle school, was it rough?
Oh my goodness. It was crazy, man. I mean, there were some teachers that I remember, like, I think they saw through it. I think they saw the heart in me that I really was a caring, loving young man, but I was just lost and confused. So most teachers handled me as that lost, confused, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just a problem child. But
Yeah.
there's a couple that just really, they saw through it, and I'm thankful for those. But no, it was pretty tough for behavior wise for a lot of my teachers.
You know what what's interesting, man, especially around that age, for some reason, there is a tiny segment of our teaching population that, for whatever reason, in that moment of emotional frustration, where they're like heightened emotion, because they're angry, they're
Yeah,
mad
for
at you,
sure,
man.
for
Like
sure.
in that moment, for whatever reason, they forget that that's a kid, that's a child,
Yeah,
and they start thinking that's an adult, and it's not an adult.
yeah,
Because at this point you're like, you're a 6 foot 13-year-old, you know, and you're getting stubble, and so they start thinking, well, he's so lazy, or he's so disruptive, or he's a problem. When the truth is, dude, you're not anything but 13. That's all you are at this point.
yeah,
Like, you're still in the incubator of becoming a person.
yeah.
Right. So, but it's really hard for some teachers. But you're right, dude. There's this amazing, like heroic population of teachers that can see through it all
Yeah.
and see the heart, and like that's a loving kid who's
Yes.
just trying to figure it out at 13.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then how about with your parents at this point?
Okay, so my parents, like, middle school, sixth grade was very tough for me. I started getting in physical fights, dealing with some racism stuff. I was in the band, so I was the white boy that made the snare. I was drummer and stuff, so I was, good with the drumsticks, and I was the only white boy that was playing the snare drum. So a lot of people challenged me, and I ended up getting into a lot of fights. And then that just spread throughout the school. So I had a lot of fights going on my sixth grade year. So my parents spent a lot of time in the principal's office. And that's one thing that just amazed me is, to this day, I'm just so thankful for my mother and father who loved me so much. They would get out of work to come to try to fight for me not to get suspended or not get expelled. And they just, my parents were shedding tears in my principal's office when I was in sixth grade. I remember it vividly. And then same thing, seventh grade, like just, crying, telling my principals, like, listen, and there's actually, my parents had a chance to file a lawsuit against the school I was in sixth grade because of my ADHD. The schools, from what I understand, are legally required to work with you and go out of their way to try to cope with, what you're dealing with. And the way that I was treated and handled because of stuff that I couldn't control at that point in my life, as far as tapping my pencil or tapping my foot. Like, my parents could have filed a lawsuit, but they chose not to, and switched schools after sixth grade. I didn't even finish the last 3 weeks. I was on out of school suspension. They said, "Look, he passed. Just keep him home. He's good." And we're at a new school. I was in a new school by the next year. So
That's funny.
Yeah.
I can remember, as a teacher, kids come to me like that last month. This goes like May 1st, and they come up to the principal's office. Man, he told me he's not gonna promote me to the ninth grade. I'm saying, brother, he's gonna promote you.
Yeah,
Trust me.
you ain't gonna be here again.
They ain't holding you back. I'm not passing any. Don't you worry.
You're good.
They're excited for you to go to high school. And so, all right, man. And so at this point, you're still doing your same thing, and then you go to high school, ninth grade.
Yeah.
Things changed. Same.
No, things just they escalated, man. Like I said, in the physical, my soccer abilities were growing, my popularity was growing. I was at a new school in Yorktown. We even moved to a new city so that I could be in a better school system. That's how severe it was from my transition from middle school to high school. My parents did everything they could to give me a shot. Freshman year, I was a new kid, so nobody really knew much about me besides the athletes, because they knew that I was going there and playing soccer with. I played travel ball with like 9 or 10 of the kids that had been going to that school. So I had a nice group of friends already. So physically it was good, but mentally it was still bad.
Yeah.
Mentally, I was dealing with things worse and worse, and then drugs came into the picture. Come high school, I was one of the youngest on the varsity team. I was an underclassman, playing with 17, 18-year-olds. So obviously, that influence was not positive for me. Seeking approval, willing to do anything, stepped into the partying role. And then ninth grade, my grades were straight. 10th grade, a little bit worse, started being okay with C's and oh, look, as long as I'm good, I'm varsity star player, I don't need to worry about grades as much. And then by the time junior year kicked in, I was a full drug addict, just not even caring about soccer or school, anything besides getting high and drunk, coming to school already drunk and high, drinking beers in the parking lot before school and smoking. and just come and just it's a joke, it's a party.
Yeah.
I was at all the parties, all the teachers knew about my reputation. I had made such a bad reputation for that at that school for myself that girls weren't even really allowed to date me. Their parents would be like, no, we know about him. So that I kind of just embraced that and went full fledged with that in high school.
Yeah, man. I think people that people, well, especially in Texas, um, for those teachers listening in Texas and Oklahoma, and and even Louisiana, like being in soccer on the East Coast, that's like playing football here. That's like I mean, it's sort of
Yeah.
like the star athletes are soccer players, or where I grew up in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Wrestlers and soccer players. We didn't have there's like a kind of a football team, but it wasn't a
Yeah.
big deal.
Not as much.
No, man. Here it's like every game's a Super Bowl, and then but man, here's what's interesting, and I love these conversations, especially with people that have like turned things around, and because that's what everybody loves, like a rags to riches story.
Yeah.
But people, what people really love is a comeback story.
Yeah.
People that had it, lost it all, and brought it back.
Yes.
And man, what I really think is just really awesome with you is you have such a clear self awareness of this need for approval at that age. Like that's really what it was, because man, that is fuel for the fire.
Yeah.
Like when you have that need and you walk in as a ninth grader, and already you have this personality for whatever reason, you have this DNA where you're seeking approval and you want to be the class clown, you want to make people laugh or shock people or get the approval. And somebody says, "Hey man, do you want it?" Before they even finish the question, as a ninth grader, yeah. Yeah, I do want to. Whatever that is, I'll do
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And man, that's just a dangerous recipe for a kid.
Yes.
Yeah. And man, and also with you, man, is what's really interesting is to see where you were. I don't know if you ever thought about this. Like when you're in the trough of it all, like you're heading downward, your junior year. Can you look back and I'm always interested in what, that expanding comfort zone of what's okay with someone. Like early in your life, if somebody said, "Man, do you want a beer?" in third grade, "No, I'm good." But at some point you said yes to, looking on somebody's paper and copying it. You know what I mean? And you said yes to something that wasn't okay, and then that made that okay. And that expanded your zone for what's okay. So I'm just like wondering, like, can you think back your freshman year, like maybe there was something that happened where like that was a turning point where if you didn't do that, maybe the rest wouldn't have happened.
Um, Honestly, I would be lying if I said yes. I think, I mean, there's a couple key relationships with the older kids that are a couple in particular that I'm sure influenced me more heavily than others. But I don't remember like a specific moment in time. I think
Yeah.
it was just bound to happen, and whether it was with this guy or with this dude, like I was gonna end up getting into something.
Yeah. And how bad did it get? Like junior year, senior year, it got bad.
Yeah, so
No
I
more
think
soccer.
no, man. By the time I was a senior, it's crazy. I was dealing with so much. The anxiety. I was raised with loving parents and good Christian family, so like I knew the way that I should be living compared to the way that I was, and I had built up this huge, like to me, it's weird. Like I think I went to a psychologist one time when I was growing up throughout the years, and they told me, Austin, you've got something. I don't know the scientific name, but it's like you think that you're in front of an audience even when you're not. Like, so I always think the whole school is watching me. So I've got this huge performance that I've got to do. Every time I go to school, I've got to be this person. I've got to fit this picture. So I had built up all this pressure on my shoulders to be this person that they all wanted me to be, which was half in my mind. But then at the same time, I was popular. I was a star soccer player. So like there was some truth to that as well. But no, but it had gotten so bad with my anxiety attacks because I knew that I shouldn't be that person that I felt everyone else wanted me to be, that it would shut me down sometimes. I mean, I got my grandma got diagnosed with cancer when I was growing up through middle school. So watching her slowly die, was tough. And I've got friends. I got the tattoos on my wrist of three initials of three of my friends. Each one of them committed suicide. Went to elementary school with the first, and middle school with the second, and high school with the third. So losing those friends and dealing with my own depression, my anxiety, drug addiction, it all just hit a peak my senior year to the point where I almost took my own life my senior year. And I could not even physically make myself go to school anymore. I had to start taking classes online. I lasted maybe a week or two, my first week of senior year, and then I didn't play soccer. I sat in my mom and dad's house and on the laptop finished my senior year. I changed my number, took myself off social media, and that was the first time I was by myself in my life. From Mr. Popular, everybody, they called my house a hotel because it'd be people over every day, but at that moment, senior year, shut everything down.
Yeah. Man, did you graduate?
I did.
Yeah.
Yep. No prom. No, I might have walked. I don't even remember if I didn't, but yeah, it was just
Yeah.
not typical, not typical at all.
For sure. At that point, man, I'm just curious, were there any like at the end of your junior year when things are really falling apart, but before you left school, where like can you think back to any teachers that still believed in you and told you, "Hey man, you can pull this thing together."
Let me think, man. Really, I can't think. In high school, no, man. I mean, I went in, I remember going in one Monday morning, first thing Monday morning, my junior year, and the principal had called me into the office, and I walked into the principal's office, and my coach was sitting there already, and the principal was there, and I was like, what in the world is this about? And they said, Austin, we heard about what you did this weekend at that party, and if we hear that again, like you're off the soccer team. I was not allowed to go to any dances. And by the time I was a junior, they told me I had to be breathalyzed, so I couldn't go to any dances. It was I went very deep. Police getting involved. All the police in the city knew who I was, and it was just. I think a lot of people probably just counted me out at that point.
Yeah. I get it. Yeah, a lot of times, even though, a teacher loves a kid so much, but at the same time they think, well, he's just not ready.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then when you're not there anymore,
Yeah.
it's hard to make a difference in your life.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And then at some point, man, I got like some, in those stories of the turnaround in this, when people get it together and sometimes there's like a big giant rock bottom moment. Other times it's just a compilation of a bunch of little things.
Yeah.
What was for you?
It was a lot of things, man. A lot of people. Of course, my parents are always going to get credit for just being there for me, always supporting me, always helping me out. Most importantly was my relationship with God that started, really just understanding that I am created the way that I am for a reason and that I'm not a mistake. Just me having to face him and in that time of me being by myself where I had no validation from anyone else. I mean, it got to the point where I had to cover up mirrors in my house with towels for 2 or 3 months because I hated looking at myself. That's how much I hated myself. But to understand that I was not a mistake and that God loves me exactly the way I am, even at my worst, that was a moment of hope. Yeah. A love that I could never earn, a love that I didn't have to perform for. So that's ultimately that's the deepest root. But a lot of things along with that, my parents. I had an ADHD coach named Mike Nackman who, by the time I was finished with school, I wanted to learn. I was so fascinated with ADHD, this thing that has plagued me my whole life. I want to know the physiology, the neuropsychology of like, why does this happen? What exactly is this? So I started helping out a psychologist that works. He was an ADHD coach, like a life coach, and he was very instrumental in helping me understand more about my own mind and why I do a lot of the things. It's like a grown man with a house and a family, a successful man that I can relate to. Like,
Yeah.
It can get to my level on a kid and be like, nah, dude, I know why you feel like this when they say this because your ADHD mind is da-da-da-da-da. And having somebody that understood on that level, I'm forever thankful for him, and that that was a start of an upward progress for me going to a school in Vermont called Goddard, where I was like, okay, I'm gonna go study neuropsychology and go to school for 10 plus years. Well, one semester later, learned that I was not about to be in school for 10 plus years, but I started rapping for the first time when I went to college. And that started a whole new passion for me, and then it's just slowly,
Yeah.
it's a slow climb from there.
What was Goddard? Was that a university or
Goddard,
a special?
Vermont? No, Goddard. I thought Goddard College, I think it's called, but it was in it was in Montpelier or some place in Vermont. I don't even remember, but I went up there and started studying. Just for the first, it was like a semester literally, and then I decided I was not about that.
Right.
And I came back home to Virginia, and then I started working full time at the shipyard. Got myself a job paying $15 an hour. 19 years old, going to community college on the side, and fell in love with a girl. So I was chilling in that mode for about 2 years.
Yeah.
So
and then how did the rapping thing go?
Yeah, so the rapping just started real slowly. I started when I was about 18, probably 19 years old, and then I messed around with it, and then I took a break for a whole year, and then I got involved with a church, and I was like, man, you know what? I could probably write a song and perform for that youth group one time. So I did that, and I didn't even take it seriously, but then, next thing you know, doors started opening to where I was like, you know what? Maybe I could start writing some actual music and really start performing. So that's how that started.
Yeah. And then as far as your like growing up, was that is all the music that influences you, what was it typically rap?
Oh, it was all rap for sure. I mean, I would say 99% rap. Like growing up, like I mentioned, a lot of my best friends my whole life have been black, and that whole culture. I loved it. I mean, I was the white boy wearing a do-rag when I was playing basketball in the cul-de-sac. You know what I'm saying? Like I was wearing the full baby blue starter. Like I might as well have been black when I looked at myself. You know what I'm saying? So that, yeah, hip hop was is a part of me. I love it. And then the only reason I would listen to rock is because I was a drummer. I started playing the drum set,
Right.
and so I'd be jamming out to rock music. But that's the only time I'd listen to stuff other than rap.
Yeah. And so that whole the rap thing. This is what I love about that. That genre of music is there's so many artists out there that make it just because of the pure hustle.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
for
mean?
sure.
Like they're out there, you don't see that in a lot of other genres of music. So, like, in fact, here's a good example. I'm on the road and I'm flying into Atlanta airport, and I have this, and Veronica is a lady who goes on the road with me occasionally to just kind of assist and help out, and we're on the road, and so we get all the gear. We have all these Pelican cases we drag around the U.S. with us and all, because I bring in sound and video and I bring everything with me, and so we drag the cases out to the front. She goes gets the rental car, so I'm sitting on this pile of cases, and this dude comes up, this black guy comes up, and he says, "Hey man, you look like a kind of guy who would love a positive message right now."
Oh, wow.
I said, "Yeah." He goes, "How about I give you a positive speech?" Sounds good to me. And he launches into this whole rap thing. See, sets his stereo down, turns it on, and he asked me what I do for a career. I tell him. He asked me, "Do you have a family?" I say, "Yeah." "What kind of a boy and a girl?" And he flows this whole thing about my life, how awesome I am, and don't give up again.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, "Man, that's amazing." And he goes, "Do you love it?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "How much do you love it?" I go, "I really love it a lot." And he pulls out a CD. He goes, "That's good, because I had a whole CD with nothing but that on it. It's $20."
Wow.
I say, "Yeah, I'll buy that thing for $20."
Wow.
And I gave him 20, and this dude pulls out a roll of 20s.
Wow.
And I'm like, "Oh my God, dude, this is what you do?" He goes, "Yeah."
Yeah.
I go, "You're here at the airport?" He goes, "I'm here at the airport. I go to the mall. I go, this is what I do."
Wow.
I said, "You're kidding me." I said, how many of these things you sell?" He goes, "Today I sold about 60
That's crazy.
today." And I said, "But here's the thing. You know what? Here's a guy making a difference in people's lives, $20 at a time. That's my kind of guy.
That's crazy.
Hustling,
That's a
spreading
hustle.
the message, doing his thing, and it's really good."
Yeah.
I love that guy.
That's dope.
But we don't see that in other genres of music.
Probably not as much, nah.
Nah. And so what was your first thing when you first come up with this idea? Here's what I want to do, and I'm going to try to make a living at this.
Yeah. Well, so I moved from Virginia, 21 years old. I was about to turn 22, and I had just decided I need to go see what else the world has to offer. So I packed up my bags. I believe I had about $300 on me. I packed up a car full of clothes, and I drove to San Marcos, Texas, where I knew one person. I had a friend that lived out there. I didn't have any any family or anything, no job lined up. I slept on his living room floor for about 6 months on an air mattress, and started working minimum wage, started hosting tables at Red Lobster, and then Then I got a better manufacturing job where I was making again like 15, 16 bucks an hour. And I started making music on the side. And I would drive from San Marcos to Houston every single weekend and save up money. And then I put together my first mixtape, which was like really professionally recorded quality music. And started just selling little mixtapes at church and on the kind of like you're talking about I remember knocking on radio station doors and handing them, CDs with a couple of tracks and getting rejected by everybody, but really just hustling, like you said. And then I started meeting some artists that were really doing it full time. And I was like, oh, wow, you can actually make money by going and doing live shows. You can actually sell merchandise. There's actually people making a living doing this. And that's when the reality hit me. And I started getting a couple opportunities to open up with some well-known people in Texas. And then, the doors just started opening slowly, but surely.
Yeah.
So I've been doing it full time now for 2 years.
What was this guy in San Marcos doing? Was he going to school there?
No, he was working. Same story as me. He wanted to get out of Virginia. We were from the same place, and he just moved out a year earlier than me. He knew one person out in San Marcos, so he went out there and started with nothing. And
my daughter's moving there in August to go to school.
Really, Texas State?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's cool out there. I was off exit 206, Ocarina Springs Drive.
Yeah. My sister used to work at Ocarina Springs when it was Ocarina Springs.
Really?
Yeah, it's not even Ocarina Springs anymore.
What was it? What did that mean?
It was like it's this bizarre little tiny miniature, kind of like a theme park.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Where they would have a glass bottom boat and you go on and you look at fish. And,
oh, wow.
But the big claim to fame, man, they used to have this, I think it was a pig, and it was a pig that would run off a diving board.
Are you kidding me?
No, dude. Which I'm not even thinking. I don't think you can do that anymore. I think people think you're being mean to the pig.
Yeah.
But the pig looked like it loved it, man. It would run up to the diving board. So,
oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. And but now it's like a conference center or something. I'm not sure what it is. And then,
funny.
but here's what I'm wondering. So you're at this point, man. Are your parents still all in when you're saying I'm doing a rap thing?
Oh my goodness! Every single step of the way. Like I remember the first time. So I was actually home visiting. And there was some gig that was paying me to fly out across the country and go do a show, and they paid for my travel and paid me to do the show, and I was just doing the whole thing. And I flew back and I had this money, and I sat down with my mom and we just counted this money out on the table. I was like, Mom, this is just like, it was just a special moment. Like I'm here with my mom, and like I just flew out of state for a day or two and just flew right back and just went and made money. And like from just working, my dad is such a hard worker, working 2-3 jobs, as many growing up. And for me to be like, I even sat and thought about it this morning as I'm laying in my bed at 11 a.m. just in no rush. I'd been up for a while knocking stuff out, but I'm just like, man, I'm so blessed. Like I get to do what I love. And my mom is so proud of me. My dad is so proud of me. They're so thankful. I'm actually flying home tomorrow to see them in Virginia. I'll be there for about a week and a half. So I can't wait. I can't wait to see them. So yeah, they've been supportive since day one.
Here's the coolest thing, man, is, there's never been a better opportunity for kids growing up right now, no matter like what you have going on in your life, like whatever you're passionate about, like whatever you love, there's a way for you to make money at it.
Absolutely.
Make a living at it.
Yeah.
I tell them, like, if you love it, you're passionate about it, you're good at it, and it makes a difference in the lives of other people, you can make a living of that.
Oh, I like that. That's dope. That's a good couple characteristics.
It solves everything. Whatever your thing, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
I mean, just in our neighborhood right now, we have kids, making a full-time living flipping stuff on Amazon. We got another guy over here. He's a gamer. People pay to watch him play games.
That's crazy.
It really is. I mean, this is the time, and like that's the thing for you, man. Like even though you were semi academically successful, you could have been extremely successful, but had some challenges because of personality stuff. And even though you took the nosedive at the end, still, and you did a few weeks at college or whatever, still, you bring it back. You found what you love. You're passionate about it. You're good at it, and it makes a difference in the lives of other people. Done. Making a living.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, man, you start now. How did you go from because you're doing the church thing, you're doing gigs, you're opening up and doing shows with other artists. How do you get into the schoolhouse? Like, who says come talk to my kids?
Yes. No, man. So this was an interesting process. So I believe 2017, I had just went to Compton, California to do some mission work out there with the Eyes on Me, a nonprofit that I work with here in Houston, and we went to set up like a hip hop show in California out there, and we came back, and the next day, I got invited by my boy Von Juan to come to help volunteer with Engine Radio at a school in Humble High School in way up in Humble. And so I was like, yeah, man, Engine Radio, they're a cool station. I don't have anything else to do this day. Just got back in town. I'll go ahead and volunteer with them. And I remember I was in the auditorium and the kids were just started flooding in the auditorium, and I'm by the door with their promotions manager just passing out flyers. And he's there like, make sure every kid gets one. So I'm just there chilling. My back was against the wall on the left side of the auditorium. All these kids were just watching the DJ, and they had paid this really dope motivational speaker to come out for a week and do. That's what it was. They were doing DJing music, but they were doing school assemblies. So I watched this motivational speaker. He started speaking.
Yeah.
And Vaughn runs up to me real quick while they started. After he was done, it was like, bro, do you have your USB drive on you, man? I think you can go up there and perform Me Time real quick. Do you have it on you? I said, yeah. So I went up and I just gave the DJ my stick, and I started performing Me Time for Humble High School. And the kids flooded to the stage and started jumping up, started screaming. They were singing the chorus as if they had been jamming it their whole life. And the DJs were looking at each other like, what is happening right now? And I was looking like, what is happening right now? I've never experienced like this much hype before. So they were like, okay, this is crazy. So they took me to every single other school show that they had that week, and it was the same result. Every single school. We went to Humble Middle School. We went to Ross Sterling Middle School. We were just bouncing around, and every school, it was the same reaction. The kids went crazy. So I put together a little plan where I was like, all right, well, you know what? I'm going to put together the Me Time tour where I'm going to take Von Juan. I'm going to hire a DJ. I'm going to hire a speaker. We're going to take a sound system, and I would pay all these guys to go and help me put on an assembly. And I would just come in on the last 15 minutes and rap.
Yeah.
And then we did that for a week, and it was amazing. By the time that week was over, I was so tired of hearing Von Juan talk about his story, and not because it's a bad story, but because I had already watched other people connect with these kids and share their life story. It was jumping out of my chest like, I have to share mine now. I can't listen to everybody else talk now. I have to speak. I'm not going to just watch other people speak. So then I started trying to set up my own little gigs, and I gave my first shot at just doing my first assembly where I was speaking and rapping. And now I've just developed a whole process where I'm just super comfortable. I've got it down pat, and I've done, thousands, probably 100,000 students here in the past year and a half, something like that. So it's been incredible, man.
It's amazing to see.
Yeah.
It's just, to see that kind of, like you said, man, that kind of positivity and energy and hype in those kids, and see the look in their eyes, and to hear them sing along like in those videos you post.
Yeah.
And man, it's such a over the top, overwhelmingly positive, energetic, hyped experience to witness, man. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Man, at this point, like in your life, like looking back at the story and like looking all the way back from junior high to right now, at some you got to feel like a little bit of pride and all that you.
Man, I would just say just thankful. And I would say just driven to, one of my dreams on my checklist is to go to the literal schools that I went to. And it's funny because my mom is a dental hygienist, and this is just the funniest story. A couple of weeks ago, she texted me, Austin. It was right before I went out of town. She said, Austin, you won't believe who I just talked to in my office, whose teeth I just cleaned. I said, who? The principal of Tab High School. I was like, oh, that's what's up. She said, and I told him about what you do, and he is interested. And like, so she gave me his email, just like she a G, man. She had gotten the info and already set it up on a T. So I sent him the email, sent him my promo, EPK, all that. He was like, dude, I would love this. Let's talk. Let's set something up for this coming year. So I'll be going, it looks like, to my high school where I was in the middle, because I've been out here a lot of Texas, Louisiana, just kind of the lower South states. But like, I talk about all this life stuff that happened way over on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And I'm yet to do a school on the East Coast, like right there where I can name streets and I can be like, no, I was in these halls right here. Like, so yeah, when I look back, I've visited teachers that I had in middle school that have cried when they see me and what I'm doing now, just because they're just thankful. They know how bad it was, and they're just thankful, and I'm thankful.
And here's the thing, man, I really hope that they understand is, dude, there's a recipe for where you are in your life right now. And every one of those people were an ingredient.
Yes.
And without that ingredient,
Yes.
it might not be where it is today. It'd be a whole different recipe.
Yeah.
So each one of whether, and it might look like a negative role at the time, but really is an important part of the recipe of you becoming you in life. And I think just having the opportunity and the ability to go back and share the story with them would be powerful.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. Man, of all the places you've been on the road and in front of kids, there's a lot of amazing kids out there.
Yeah.
It's cool, isn't it?
Yeah. It's wild.
Yeah. And I get it, man. Here's the thing, like we don't talk about enough about, unfortunately, like on the news, anytime we see stuff about kids, it's always something really negative. But there's some phenomenal kids that share amazing stories with you everywhere you go.
Yeah. Oh man, just the messages that I get to this day, like on my Instagram, I've got a highlighted story reel of just messages and DMs that kids send me about how their life has been impacted or how they started doing this and that, and it's surreal,
Yeah.
A lot of amazing kids out there.
And dude, here's what I really hope you understand is, and I don't think I got it. Like when I was teaching when I was 26, I don't think I really got it on such a deep level that I do now, because I see my kids, and now my kids are in their 40s, like the students I've had.
Yeah.
So I've got students in their mid and late 40s. And so what's crazy is I can look back, and when I had this kid in my class as a 16 or 17-year-old, there was like a little shift in their life. And I thought, oh, that's pretty cool, man. I felt good. Like I feel like I made a difference.
Yeah.
But what I didn't get back then is because of that little shift, that kid's on a whole different trajectory.
Yes.
And over the course of the next 10, 20, and now 30 years, this kid is in a whole different universe because of that little tiny thing we did in class.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing's for you. So like when you get those messages and you hear those stories and the kids say that stuff and they give you that note, like, that's a shift in the trajectory.
Yeah.
And that's really cool today. But man,
Yeah.
over the next 30 and 40 years, this kid is going just because of that little moment that happened on that day.
Yeah. No, that's what it makes me think of is like, I've heard this story and I might butcher it a little bit, but like a Billy Graham or something, like this guy that just, changed the lives of probably millions of people. And they tell us, I hear the story about the guy that changed his life. And that was just like a lower level, like just random guy. It was just like a little small event where Billy Graham was at, and his life was changed at that event. So that guy that nobody knows who he is, and that was a small little tiny random event that he could have cared less about if he was in the wrong mentality of like, oh, I want to be in front of all these people. And it's like, no, he was where he was at that one show, and Billy Graham was in the crowd, and look at what he grew to do. And like that's the type of I don't think we'll all see the fruit of all the labor of the lives that we touch, and I think that's kind of cool. It's a legacy. I think
really
that's
is.
a legacy.
And here's the craziest thing of all, man, I'm so glad you brought that up, man. This happens regularly, and it recently happened in an airport in Minnesota. That I'm walking through, I'm dragging my cases through the airport, and I hear Bowman, and I look back, and it's just this dude, I'm like, Bowman, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, oh, this is a kid. I've had this kid. He's a man now, but with the beard, it's hard to tell, And, he's taller and bigger and gained weight, and I'm trying to figure that. And then I realized, this kid in my class, and he goes, dude, I got to tell you, man. He goes, I've thought about that class all the time. And I'm thinking, I can picture him in the class with his head down, sleeping.
Wow.
And I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? And he goes, man, the class was awesome, dude. I said, well, you weren't even awake, brother. He goes, no, I was listening.
Wow.
And so here it is, I haven't even thought about the kid. And if somebody asked me, if that kid, if I made a difference in that class, I would say, hell no, I didn't connect with that kid.
Yes.
He slept.
Yeah.
I think he gave me the finger once. I don't think. But you know what?
Yeah.
That kid, he went story after story after story about that year, and I don't even know what he's talking. But he remembered so much detail from that class, and that's the thing, man. Working with kids, especially on your event, because it's such a spectacle of their year in school. You know what I mean? Because it's they kind of do the system and the consistency of the same stuff, but then you show up and there's the lights and the music and the hype and the thing.
Yeah.
Like that is a moment that kid remember for the rest of his life.
I believe that.
Yeah. It's powerful, man.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing I love what you do is this is bizarre. I don't know why the mind works this way, but this is the way it works. Is You have these parents of kids and teachers of kids and principals and counselors, and they're constantly given the message. And for some reason, it resonates on a deeper level when somebody shows up for one day that they don't even know.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Yes.
Because here's this,
Absolutely.
they show up every day.
Saying the same thing.
Yeah.
We could say literally the same thing.
Yeah. And for some reason, it means,
Yeah.
it's really interesting, man.
Yeah.
Even with my work, as a principal who, like I do my thing.
Yeah.
He goes, I'm so glad you said that because I've been telling him that all year long.
Yeah.
But now that you said it, for some reason, it's happening.
Yeah.
It's
crazy.
I know.
I can't quite wrap my mind around it. I mean, there's certain variables that I could see would help, like they might feel like they can connect with me a bit better or, more relatable in a sense. But it's one of the funny things that I do. I bring that up during the assembly as an icebreaker. I'm like, all right, y'all, let's do a little dance party. Invite the kids up, and then the kids go crazy watching each other dance. Then they sit them down, and then I say, okay, now I'm gonna transition into the real reason I'm here. It's because of the teachers. They care about y'all. They love y'all. Can we bring the teachers up to the front and just say thank you to them? So the teacher up there and 1, 2, 3, thank you. All the kids scream and the teachers 1, 2, 3, you're welcome. And then the teachers are just up there standing in front of the crowd, and I go, okay, now do y'all ever feel like these students are coming to class? I'm talking to the teacher. They're and you tell them that you're there for them. You want to help them more than just like school and do your work. Like you really care about them, and they're just like, no, you don't relate, you don't understand. And they're like, yes, we get that. And I asked the students, y'all ever feel like that? You just can't relate to the teachers, and they're like, yeah. And then I'd be like, all right, well, I'm going to help break that wall right now. And I just turn around, and I hit my laptop and drop some crazy hip hop beat. And then like, teachers, go ahead and dance. And then the students go crazy. Look, and then there'll be that one teacher that you least expect that just starts breaking it down, and the kids go wild. And like, that's the type of stuff that I just think, I think that stuff breaks walls where the kids are like, okay, these teachers were kids too. They're just not up here, so far from reality that they really don't know. But I think that's the walls that we just try to break down.
Yeah, man. I think, on stage and in the classroom, like that's a huge part of classroom where, like long gone are the days like, that teacher in front of them, this is my class. This is my class. I just said, shut up, sit down. Where nowadays, man, it really has to be this family, man. This is our class, and we're in here together. This is our family.
Yes.
And, I'm older, and I'm going to stand at the front, and I'm going to facilitate this family.
Yeah.
But it's us together.
Yeah.
And like, I think that's really the metaphor of, they dance, we dance. And now we're
Absolutely.
all on the same page, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I could probably learn a whole lot from you about, just that, because you've got a lot of experience. You were there, you were a teacher, and you do that now. So that's cool.
Like I think that's like the credibility I have with teachers, because I've been, I've taught for decades, and I've taught in tiny towns, I've taught in inner cities, I've taught high school, elementary, I've done it. But that's the thing with kids, like you've been there. Yeah. And like you've lived in that culture. Yeah. And you've had that experience in the ADD, and you know what it's like. You know what it feels like to take the drug. Where it's really hard. It's almost as if if somebody is really, trying to come up with an example for some, like an adult. Like if someone's really overweight and they're obese, and they go hire a trainer, and that person has never had a problem with weight. Yeah, they're just born with that amazing physique. They don't know what it's like.
That's a fact.
They have no idea what it's like to be on a diet or to try to, you know what I mean? So I think it's the same thing with you, where like, since you've been there, they can identify like, this dude's a real deal, man.
Absolutely.
Man, of all the stuff that you do, man, like when you show up for schools and like in that moment, what's your favorite part of the day?
Oh, my favorite part of the day, man, I just love, I don't know that there's a certain part throughout the school assembly process. My least favorite is the sound system. I know that. Loading up the sound system, man, having to drag, it's like a Tetris the way I fit it in my car. But I would say, man, the favorite is just walking into the school with excitement and having the principal, hey, we're excited to have you here. Like just feeling welcomed and feeling loved and appreciated in school is something that it goes much deeper than just that one event, because my past is nothing but rough memories at school. I was never feeling appreciated at school. I was always getting in trouble. I was having the principals trying to kick me out of school, and now they bring me to the school, and the love and I don't know, man. I just walking through those halls like that is just very special to me. And of course, connecting and just being able to talk about the passionate things that I talk about and connecting with kids. I love everything about it, but there's just something special about walking through the halls and just at a new school. Like, man, I can't believe that I'm here and I'm welcomed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. They're bringing you in.
Yeah, they're bringing me in. They used to take me out. Now they
Yeah.
bring me in.
They were all about the exit before.
Yeah.
Now you're about the entrance.
Yeah, now they don't want me to leave.
I know. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
As your music career grows, because here's the crazy thing, man. Like this, I mean, just outside of the message, you got the music, and it's good. It's really good. And like, do you ever feel like that gets lost, like the artist part of it?
I think there's just a balance that I'm currently learning. The music industry is just a whole nother beast. I was signed with the record company in 2018, so I had a lot of responsibilities on my shoulders that I was, signed to a contract to meet certain obligations, which kind of it didn't hold me back, but it kept my focus in another area, kept my focus with the music, with selling merch, with doing shows, with the promotion, all that stuff. And 2019 came around and I'm no longer with the record company and I was able at the beginning of this year to say, you know what, I put out a really quality project last year and there's still a world full of people that do not know that music. So instead of just wanting to just make a whole bunch more music that people still won't know across the world,
Yeah.
I want to try to reach more people with the music that I've already got. So I just was very intentional this year about just trying to work on relationships and just trying to find the open doors and really focus more on the motivational speaking gift that I have instead of just the music. So it's been on pause, but I've been in the studio these past couple weeks, man, and there's just a fire getting ignited. The music that I'm working on now is just another level of quality from where I was. I'm learning, I'm maturing, I'm growing, and it's just exciting, man, to be able to do both and have a healthy balance.
Yeah, man. I think from the just from a business perspective, like the business model is just. I mean, you're showing up, and there's your audience, there's your customers already.
Oh my goodness, man! These rappers out here, these singers, they are slipping.
Yeah.
They are slipping. That it just I stumbled into it. I didn't expect that when I went to
Yeah.
that Engine Radio, and I was like, oh, these kids are going crazy. And then I gained like 1,000, 1,500 followers within that 2-day period.
Yeah.
That I was with Engine for the rest of the couple shows they had. It's like I started getting thousands of followers, and that was the first time I was like, oh my goodness, there's now thousands of kids watching me.
Yeah.
And doing that on more scales, thousands, it just is growing, and then that can turn into music streams, and then I can invite them to shows and sell merch, so it can turn into money. But I never expected it. That was not like, that's not how it started, but
Yeah.
I stumbled into it, and I just feel like there's a huge niche for that.
Yeah, man. In fact, this is what the music business is nowadays.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Before it really was about selling records. And
Yeah.
those days are long gone.
Yeah,
man.
it's
I mean, it's
gone.
all about the live. It's all about the merch. It's all about, like you said, man, followers and keeping up with and keeping those people part of your tribe and moving
Yes.
forward. But the other thing is, man, is what's cool about you, man, is they know what they're getting into. Like they know it's a positive thing.
Yes.
They understand that your role is to make a difference in the lives of people, make an impact on the world, and they want to be a part of that.
And I think that gives me a lot of peace because, you mentioned the tragedy of going and making real relationships with people that you really love and care about, that you just meet and then leaving. And I feel like it's cool because with me, they get to still connect with me after,
Yep.
not only through social media, but they can listen to my
They have
music,
the music.
forever
Yeah.
on their phones, and they can jam it. And it's like I've left, but I've not left, So I
Right.
think that's really cool.
It's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Hey, what's next for you, man?
Man, so dude, I just got back from Namibia, Africa, man. I was over there, and that was just a life-changing experience, and it's just opened up my mind to just the whole world of just more people and more places and more cultures and more music and more. I mean, my eyes have been opened to a newfound love for just traveling and spreading the message of hope to people in places that I never would have expected. So I was there for about 2 weeks and almost 2 weeks, and they're already trying to get me to come back next year, man. So I'm already plotting on that, and I've got a friend, that's getting ready to move to India, and we're talking about possibly setting some stuff up in India, and I'm going to Uganda in September. So like I got a message from somebody with a FCA in Hong Kong the other day. So they're looking at trying to get me out in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And so I mean like that's crazy for me. I want to travel, man. I definitely would
This is
love
the
to.
time to do it, man.
Yeah, I'm single. I've got no kids, and I'm just like, man, right now I can get up and just jump on a plane and go somewhere for 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that I would love to travel and just continue spreading the message of hope that we both share, and then also music. I am in the studio and I am working on some new stuff. So I'm just taking my time, just cruising right now.
Yeah. Hey, man, so we have a ton of teachers, but also principals that listen. So how would you describe like a day? So you show up at the middle school, the high school, and when you're on campus, like what does a typical day look like?
So it really just depends on how many students are at the school. If it's 500 kids at the school, smaller school, then oftentimes we'll just load up in the auditorium, a gymnasium. I'll load up the sound and, spend 45 minutes to an hour, whatever's best with the school schedule. And we'll knock it out. If I go to a school with 1,500 kids and they can only fit 500 in the auditorium, I'll come in early morning, set up my sound. The kids, will come in and we'll do 3 assemblies, 500 each, So it kind of just depends on the size of the school. That's what the layout can look like either in the morning or the afternoon. But the actual assembly, it's, typically 45 minutes to an hour long. I'll have music playing, that the kids relate to, already breaking the ice by the time they even sit down in the seat. And they see these big speakers and they're like, it's hitting, and they're like, who's this guy with this chain on? And they're already just curious and, and it's exciting. So then, just from there, start off with a little icebreaker dance. And then I slowly transition into my story and I start talking real about how I lost my identity with the ADHD diagnosis, and then I hit them with some real facts and stuff, and then I get to the soccer when middle school comes. It's like a chronological story, starting with kindergarten, my ADHD diagnosis, to the struggles I had up to 6th grade, started playing soccer, then I break out a soccer ball, and I invite the kids to come out and try to play soccer with me, do a couple tricks, and I show them some tricks, and they're like, oh, snap,
Yeah.
So then they go back, and then we transition into high school, and then it gets really, really real in high school, and that's when you can just hear a pin drop, and I'm able to touch on different things. Whatever the school, really, I kind of formulate it. I'll talk ahead of time to the school and say, what are the main issues that you think your kids would need to hear something addressed about, whether it's identity, or if the school's just had a suicide, it'll be mental health awareness, suicide awareness, or if the school's not big on the whole suicide, maybe they'll just say, man, we just anti-bullying or social media, you know what I'm saying? Like it's always something that I can talk about in my story that I can focus on what the school wants to hear about. So we'll do that, and then at the very end, I tell them the people I've been on stage with. By the time I get to Gucci Mane and Drake, they're like, "Oh my gosh!" I'm like, "Y'all want to hear my music?" They're like, "Yes, yes," going crazy. So we perform the music and we turn up, and then I leave and spend 10, 15 minutes trying to sign autographs. What I can never get to everybody because it's crazy, but man, it's an impact that's made on the school that lasts, from what I hear, much longer than the amount of time that I'm there. So.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
I love it. I love it, man, because of all the, like, it's kind of like you paid the price to do what you do. Do you know what I mean? Like all that, there's a lot of emotional pain invested by you up front, because without all those stories, all through junior high and high school and all the struggle, even in elementary school, you wouldn't have the story. You wouldn't be who you are today.
Yeah, that's a fact.
And so, although I think that's such a great message, and maybe kids get that subconsciously, like, although it sucks right now and it hurts right now.
Yes.
But man, this is you're writing the book, man. This the chapter after chapter that you're writing. The way this story ends up is going to be amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that.
That's all I want to be, is an example of somebody that was right where you're at in your seat, feeling hopeless, feeling lost, and look at me now type deal. You can do the same thing. You have a purpose too.
Yeah. Signing autographs.
Oh yeah.
It's awesome, right?
Yeah, I mean, it can get just crazy, man. Like I've learned, because I used to just be like, all right, who wants an autograph? Come see me. And then I'll have 400 kids around me, and I'm like getting like you would think it's like, oh, it's little 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 13-year-old girls and boys. Like you're 6'5", you know, like man, when there's 100 of them surrounding you and they're all, it's like, man, okay. So I learned how in order. All right, let's make a single file line. Have what you want ready. I'll have my marker and I'm gonna go and just make it organized. And the teachers are much more thankful for that. But like I try to run through everybody, and the kids are like, sign my face, sign my shirt, sign my phone, sign my. I've signed the craziest things you would not believe. I've signed biscuits from lunch. I've signed, man, just I had a kid ask me to sign a biscuit, and I signed his biscuit, and he ate it right in front of me. I was like, what in the world, man? What is life, man? I was like, oh my goodness, man.
I love it. Hey, man, I can't thank you enough for being here, dude. I mean, your whole story, what you got going on, I really, really appreciate it. And the fact that you're out there doing your thing, making a difference in the lives of kids is just, I love it. And, man, I'm proud of you.
Oh, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. And I've looked up what you do, and I've got a huge respect for you, man. I would love to have you be somebody in my corner that I can look to for advice and just seek wisdom from, man, because I really respect what you do. And I was excited about coming out today. I appreciate you having me out here.
Awesome. All right, brother. High five. We're
High
done.
five, man.